Hi guys, so today we're going to be going over how to find the endpoint given the midpoint. So to do that, let's just first recall about the midpoint. So let's look at this question. How do you find the midpoint of segment AB given A is 3, 1 and V is 9, 9? So if I go ahead and graph these 2 points, we have 3, 1 here and then 9, 9 here, right? And then when you connect them, oh, that doesn't look that straight. Something like this. When you connect them, then you can find the midpoint, right? So the second way that you can find it is by using the formula that we have. So remember, this is going to be our x1, this is going to be our y1, and then this is going to be our x2, and the other 9 is going to be our y2. And then what we have to do is plug it inside the formula, which is m is equal to the mean of the x's. Remember, the mean would be to add them up and divide by the amount of numbers that you added, which is in this case is 2. And then you do the same with the y's. So you have 2 y's, so you add them up, divide by 2, and that should give you the midpoint, right? So we go ahead and do the next part. You would have m is equal to, well, x1 is 3, so that will be 3 plus 9 divided by 2, comma, 1 plus 9 divided by 2, right? Let's actually make this in red so we can have some consistency. So 1 plus 9 divided by 2. Now, what we have to do for today, or what we are being asked to do today, is to find the endpoint when you are given the midpoint. In this case, what that means is basically, instead of having this b that we have here, we're not going to be given that. So we have to imagine that we don't have the 9, 9. And in this case, we're trying to find that. So how would that change? Well, if you think about it, that means that we no longer have this 9 and this 9. So this is just to give you a brief example on what we're trying to solve. And hopefully you get some ideas on how this changes our equation. So now let's go over the formal lesson. So let's look at the question. Finding the endpoint. The question is, the midpoint of AB is M65. So that is our midpoint. So this, let's use black, 6,5 is going to be our M. So this to connect, and then we have another segment somewhere around here such that this is the midpoint. So this is M. Then this would be A, and basically what they're asking us to find is to find B. So the first thing that you have to go ahead and do is to go ahead and list the information that is given. So we are given M is 6,5, A is 3, 1, and then we're looking for B. So I'm going to go ahead and write it here. So M 6, 5. We have A, that is going to be 3, 1, and then we are looking for B, which we do not know what that is yet. So now let's go ahead and label each one. So how would our usual formula go? So the first thing that we would have to do is to label each one, right? So usually we will look at A and B and label. So my 3 here is going to be my x1, right? And then my 1 would be my y1. And then therefore this one, the number that we have missing, would be here my x2, and then the other number would be my y2. Now from here, you have to notice that this 6 and this 5, which I'm going to denote in blue, are actually the answers, right? So our formula, remember, is M is equal to x1 plus x2 divided by 2, comma, y1 plus y2 divided by 2, and then M is our answer. So now what you have to realize is that basically all you have to do is continue doing what we've been doing before. So in this case, my x1 will be 3. Let's make that in green. So 3 plus, in this case, we are missing this x2. So I'm just going to denote it as x2. And then this is going to be divided by 2, comma. We have our y1, which we do know that one, that's going to be 1, plus, we don't know the y2, so I'm just going to leave it as y2, and then divided by 2. Now we have to realize that our m is already given to us. So in other words, we already know that the answer has to be 6 and 5. So 6 has to be the answer for what part? 6 has to be the answer for this part, for the x, and then 5 has to be the answer for the second part, which would be this part, the y. So now think about it. So basically, I'm looking for a number x2 such that when I add it to 3, so a number plus 3 divided by 2 is equal to 6, right? That's basically what I'm trying to find. So I'm going to go ahead and write that on the side. So 3 plus x2 divided by 2 has to give me an answer of 6, right? So what number would that be? So 3 plus this number divided by 2 is equal to 6. Well, you can always try to guess. So for example, let's say that x2 is 6. So then 6 plus 3, or 3 plus 6, which that would be 9. 9 divided by 2 is not equal to 6. So as you can see, I'm trying, but I'm losing time every time I try a number. Let's say that I try another number. Let's say that I try, in this case, 4. So then that would be 3 plus 4, that would be 7. 7 divided by 2 does not give me 6. So doing this over and over is actually making me lose time. So the easier way to do this is to actually go ahead and try to solve this using algebra. So now, how can I use algebra? Well, if you notice, what we're doing to the x2, we are adding 3 and then we're dividing by 2. So we're going to use inverse operations. So we have to do the opposite. The last thing that we did to the x2 was to divide it by 2. So we have to get rid of the dividing by 2. So what's the opposite of dividing by 2? Well, that is multiplying by 2. So I multiply by 2 on both sides, and this is going to give me 3 plus x2 is equal to 12, right? So let's make this white. And then how will you solve for x2? What would you have to do to both sides? Well, you would have to go ahead and subtract by 3, right? So we have to subtract by 3. And therefore, my answer for x2, in other words, the coordinate of x2, is going to be equal to 9. And that makes sense, right? Because if you do it on the side, 9, or actually, it's 3. 3 plus 9 divided by 2 does give me 6, because 3 plus 9 is 12. 12 divided by 2 is equal to 6. So that means that this x2 is 9. So now let's try to do the other one. Let's try to do our y. So our y is going to be 1 plus y2 divided by 2 has to be equal to what? What should this answer be? Well, our y has to be equal to 5. The midpoint has to be 5. So I have to put a 5 here. And then we use the same process. So remember, we have to go ahead and use algebra. So what are we doing to the y2? We are adding 1 and then we're dividing by 2. So the last thing that we did was divide by 2. So in other words, we have to get rid of that. So we have to get rid of the dividing by 2, or the 2 on the bottom. And you do that by multiplying both sides by 2. So you multiply both sides by 2. These two cancel out. So now you have 1 plus y2 is equal to 10. And then from here, you use algebra again. So you're adding 1 to the y2. You do the opposite, which is going to be subtract 1. Therefore, my y2 is equal to 9. And that makes sense, right? So because 9 plus 1 is 10, and 10 divided by 2 is equal to 5. So I'm just checking my answer to make sure that it's correct. So now these two answers that we have here basically are the coordinates of B. So these two go here. So this would be 9, and then this would be 9. And let's check if it makes sense on our diagram. So 9, 9, that would be here. And yes, it does make sense, right? Because if you notice, the answer that we have here, 6, 5, is in the middle between 3, 1 and 9, 9. Alright guys, in a separate video I'm going to go ahead and do 2 more examples so I can help you out with this. That's it for this video.